Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Coach. Today I'm reviewing My City Roll and Build from Cosmos Games. My City Roll and Build is a roll and write version of My City for 1 to 6 players, although I particularly recommend it at 2 players, not because it's actually better that way, but because you can get more games out of the limited number of pads that are in this box. Or you can just buy it again, but I like the game, so I want to play it more. But My City Roll and Build is a roll and write version of My City. My City, from Rainer Knizia from Cosmos Games, is a game of placing polyomino tiles onto a board, and it's a legacy game, effectively meaning that across 24 episodes, you are adding rules, changing up the game, and doing what you need to do to go ahead and get to the very end and see who is the winner of the final game. Meanwhile, each individual game has its own winner, and you're just going along this pathway of iterative rules and polyomino placement in that game. My City Roll and Build builds upon that no pun intended, My City Roll and Build builds upon that exact concept, although this time it's 12 episodes, which is already different for a roll and write. This is an episodic roll and write. You play them in 3-episode arcs or a full 12-game campaign, kind of, adding up the points, dealing with the winner, all that. And the game is going to have the same core gameplay. So if you've played My City, this will seem very familiar to you, this little board. But in this game, you're instead rolling these dice over here, lining up the little gray dot on the center of these 2 dice. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's a little gray dice over here. If we can focus, there we go. You line those up, that creates the little shape. In this case, we have a 4 square, and we're doing it with cross hatches, X's over here. So on this sheet over here, we're gonna mark off a little 2x2 square, and we're gonna mark it off with an X in each one to define the building type, because there's 3 building types. There's the X's, there's the filled in, and then there's the cross hatching, and those are going to be the 3 different building types you have to mark in your board. That's the core idea. Build a polyomino, not from a set pool of polyominoes like in My City, but rather do so from a arrangement of how the dice orient themselves, which can be anything from a single 1. How do you even get the 1 over here? If you do this over here, there we go. We got a tiny little 1 piece over there. But you can have all kinds of different shapes. Oh, we have a 1 piece over here. We have a 3 piece over here like this, but that's going to be that kind of 3. That one's going to be that kind of 3. You're creating these different structures and then deciding what type of building it is based on this die and place them down to your board. Now, the first episode starts off very plain and simple. In the first episode, every time you don't construct a building, you're going to slowly lose points. You want to be careful about choosing not to construct a building either by choice or because you simply can't. Or alternatively, every single tree you have left at the end of the game that you did not cover is worth a point per tree. That's going to be 1 for those and 2 for those over there. Rocks are worth negative points per rock, and that's a cluster of 2 rocks. That's going to be negative 2 points. And then every empty space on the board is worth negative points as well. Basically meaning that you're trying to fill up the entire board, although in this first episode at least, you do not build on the rocks, you do not build in the trees, and you can't build across the river. You have to have a building. Basically, you can't have a same building going across it. You can have buildings on both sides, but not crossing over the river. And so you're trying to fill up this board, and that is episode 1, and that is all. That's the game. Nothing else. Not at all a single other thing, except for the fact that there's 11 more episodes. And in each episode, they're going to add rules to it. Now, this isn't a legacy game. There's not really spoilers in the typical sense, but I also don't want to mess with your journey if you choose to play this game. What I will say is the rules start off with, hey, cover things up. And then they iterate. And if you've played My City, some of those iterations will be familiar. So I'll start with the basic one. That's the only one I'll tell you. Everything else I'll keep simple. But as you move to the next episodes, you want to have similar building types next to similar building types. You want to have those X's next to the X's, the cross hatches next to the cross hatches. You want to have everything similar to each other next to each other in this board so you can score more points, which means in episode 2, you're already dealing with more things to balance and juggle in the game. And that's going to get increasingly more complex across the 12 episodes this game has to offer until you get to the climactic conclusion, add up all your points, either you play them in a single game or in a 3-episode arc, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, I just counted to 12 in 3s to show you how that works, because I didn't think you'd be able to do it otherwise, I guess. Or alternatively, just doing a full 12-episode campaign. Any one of those options are how you go through and play this game. And this is not a legacy game. I mean, I guess it is a legacy game. You are destroying components as you go because these sheets are being written on. And you have a limited pad of paper over here. These are going to have all the episodes in them, which I will not show you any of the things that happen there. The map will change and iterate as you go to some small degree. But that is basically My City Roll and Build. I always want to say roll and write, but it's roll and build. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into the review, starting off with ease of play. Ease of play is, I guess, hard to really analyze because I'm coming at this knowing My City, so for me, I already understood the basic framework, so I was just seeing the differences there, but from all I can see, it seems like a very easy to pick up game, even if you didn't know My City. Basic concept is you go ahead, on your turn, you roll the dice, you go ahead and match these up, you create a little polyomino shape, and you draw it on your board, and the nice part is, while there are more rules that are added, those more rules come as you go, so you don't have to really worry about those right away. Just start off, play the first game, it's so simple, you already know what to do. I'm not even sure if there's any edge cases at all. Oh, there's an edge case. I forgot to tell you. When you don't draw a shape, you either take negative points by marking on this little circle over here, adding up the circles, or alternatively, you simply end the episode. When you end the episode, you don't take negative points, but you can no longer place anything else. You have to make a judgment call as to when to do that. But that's basically the game. Very easy to pick up and play. Takes about half an hour to play a game, maybe even less if you're moving quickly. Fast-moving game. Ease of play is very accessible. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like. Starting off with the roll and write polyomino game in general. I mean, the fact that this is a roll and write, which is a category I like, the fact that it's a polyomino game, which is a category I like, the fact that this is a riff on My City, which is a board game that I like, means this is already primed to be an experience I like, and I do like it. We'll talk more about that in final thoughts, but it gives me the My City experience in a sort of compressed box that is different enough to still have its place while being similar enough that it reflects a game system that I already know that I enjoy. Effectively, this has, I would say the biggest core difference between this and My City is My City gives you more tactical control over the idea that you know what polyomino pieces are available and it's a limited fixed pool, and so you're placing them onto your board and planning around those, and this is anyone's game. You're going to roll those dice and, you may go ahead and see the same shape 4 times in a row. You may not see a particular shape the entire game. There have been games where you just won't see a 1 the entire game. That can happen. And there's games where I've rolled like 4 1s in a row. You play this game enough, you'll see that craziness. And that is a good thing and a bad thing. We'll get to that as well. But for me, it differentiates it from My City. It gives me a different experience. It feels like a lighter, less planning version of My City. And My City is already a gateway game. This is just like an additional level of just like loose and easy, and the fact that it's iterative like My City before it is good. It gives you a simple game that then grows and develops, meaning one of the things I find myself often challenged with is not just enjoying games, but what's my incentive to continue to play? Okay, I've played it, I've liked it, I've enjoyed it. How much do I like it? Do I love it? Do I love it compared to other games? Do I love it compared to other games? Or are you a legacy or campaign game that's giving me an inherent incentive to continue to dive in? It's just, and this gives you that incentive. You play a game and you want to keep playing. I'm currently in the middle of a game with 2 other players where we're 5 games in, and I am upset that we didn't finish it. And I want to go back and finish it. I still have the pads of paper. I still want to go ahead and finish it because I want to finish the entire arc. Yes, I know you can play in 3-episode arcs, but that's for people who don't really play. That sounds offensive. I was gonna say that's for people who really don't play games. That sounds exclusionary. I'm being over the top for dramatic effect. Anyone can play and enjoy this game, whether you play it 1 game at a time, 3 games at a time, 12 games at a time, or not at all. Just to be clear. But that said, I like the iterative nature of the game. I like the roll and write and polyomino. I like how bingeable, easily bingeable it is. My biggest complaint against this is going to be the fact that there's not enough pads, because unlike a traditional roll and write, where they give you a section of pads that's this size, and it has all the same game, this is giving you this size, but there's 12 different episodes to balance and juggle here, just making it a little bit, making me a little pessimistic about how soon I'll need another copy of this game. But yeah, that's going to be My City roll and build as far as things I like. As far as things I don't like, this is one of the tricky because I both like and don't like the fact that it's less plannable than My City. I like the fact that in My City, I can sit there and think through, okay, I have these 3 reds, those 4 blues, I have these shapes, and they're all going to go ahead and go onto my board in these particular areas, and this is how I'm going to combine it, and I am good to go, except when they remove a random tile I can't plan around. But again, the degree of planning in My City is so much stronger. And here, you can still plan based on the statistical likelihood of what shapes roll more often. So there is some control. The nature of these dice means some shapes are more common than others, but at the end of the day, you could see the complete chaos of what shows up every single game. There are games where you'll roll like the full color shape like 7,000 times in a row, and you're like, that is not evenly distributed. The nature of even distributions is it works out across a whole. But in any individual game, you may well see one shape more than another, a distribution of color more than another. You'll see different things more than the other. And so it's both something I like because it makes this game like fun and accessible and craziness, but also I do miss the more planning nature of My City, which again, I think it's just a trade-off of what game you're looking for at what time, but that's worth noting. It just means it's more luck-driven in terms of what it brings to the table. So that, and the fact that it's 12 episodes, not 24, and the fact that there's not enough pads, it's a game system I like for what it's trying to do, but we'll come back to that. As far as I can see, others not liking, first of all, drawing shapes over here. There is a lot more drawing in this game. The nature of the system means you're constantly drawing shapes over here. I do recommend, by the way, that you don't actually go for full color. There's ways you can go ahead and do 3 different shapes over here. Like, I tend to leave it blank. So I tend to do X's, crosshatch, and just blank instead, just to limit how much I'm scratching off the pad, just because it takes time to do it. Nothing else like conserving ink or paper. It just takes time to fully color in every single shape. But either way, the amount of drawing you're doing on the board, if you don't like that, there's a decent amount. There's a decent amount of drawing on the board. It's a minor complaint. Also, the fact that it's jumping in or out means it's not as it is less satisfying, in my opinion, to play a single game of My City Roll and Write. To me, Roll and Build. To me, this game thrives as a journey. And so I am mentally thinking of it and rating it and appreciating it as a full 12-episode campaign arc. If I was comparing Chapter 1, Episode 1 of My City Roll and Build to any other roll and write I have in my collection, it would come across as wanting. It would be left wanting. It would not have enough depth to it. It is too light. The simple base game is an appetizer to whet your palate for the games to come. So if this is something that you're not going to actually go through a bunch of episodes and see what the game has to offer, I think you're missing out on the experience, but I also think that if you're not going to do that, just don't pick this one up. There are better roll and writes I can recommend if you're looking for single-shot experiences. For me, this thrives as a narrative arc, and I do think that the 3-episode at a time is doable, but I think it really thrives as a full 12-episode narrative arc. Not narrative arc, the narrative's incidental, but the arc of the games, I think that's where it thrives and what's best. If you're not looking at it that way, I would just recommend other games over this instead. As far as final thoughts on My City Roll and Build, I like the game. It's not winning any awards in my head. It's not the best game ever. It's not the most satisfying roll and write I have, but it builds off of a system that I already like. It builds off core game mechanics that I already like. It's short, it's bingeable, you can travel with this, you can play it on a plane, you can play it wherever you are. This is so accessible. It is a good, if you're going to play it as a 12-episode arc, to me this is a solid roll and write game. For me, it's a 4 out of 5. It's not a heavy game. It's simple, it's light, it's accessible. But I play this a lot. Like, I've probably played by now, I think I finished it twice, and I have, like, a few starts. I probably have, like, I don't know, 28, 29 plays of this under my belt, to be clear. Not full arcs, but 29 individual plays. That's a lot for roll and writes. I don't play most of my roll and writes that much. This gives me the drive and the gameplay to continuously incentivize me to dive into it. So, for me, this is a 4 out of 5. If you're looking for other game recommendations, first of all, My City. If you like this game and you haven't played My City, definitely check out My City, or My Island for that matter, although I'm only 3 episodes into My Island, so I can't talk about it as comprehensively yet. But then also, if you want something that gives you this feeling, but in a more one-episode bingeable form that thrives in its one-episode form, I highly recommend Silver and Gold. Silver and Gold, I believe it's out of print, but I think they're bringing back a version of it. I'm not sure. But either way, Silver and Gold is going to give you a very similar vibe to this, but in a single episode at a time kind of game. Not episode, just single play. A single play at a time. Silver and Gold, worth hunting down if you're able to find it. And with that, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this review helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.